Tell me about the good
The
old days.
Planet of the Apes.
Those damn dirty apes. Okay.
Okay. Oh no! Now whenever I think of it, I think of how the line got reversed in the Tim Burton movie, where it's like, you damn
Damn
dirty
dirty
human."
humans. That actually
Stupid.
was kind of clever in my opinion. I thought that, especially since wasn't it Charlton Heston playing the ape that said that?
It might have been. I don't remember. I only saw it once in the theater, and that was enough. And that was back in the day. Let's talk about the original Charlton
Sure.
Heston movie. Now I have a question. You were more of a '70s child, right?
Yes. Yes.
Planet of the Apes fever was probably big in the country back then. Right?
It kind of was, yeah. I obviously didn't go see those movies in the theater. I was kind of young, but as they got played on TV back then, you didn't have cable, you didn't have home video or anything like that. But it worked very similarly. It would be released in the theaters, it would leave the theaters, and then a few months later, I mean, it seemed like years to a kid, but it really was just a few months later, 6 months maybe, it would show up in edited form on network television. So that was the first time I saw it, but because you're right, it was so popular, there were several of these movies out there. There was a television series and a cartoon series, and I saw both of those.
I saw the pilot for the television series, which struck me as a little silly because in the television version, didn't the humans speak in the future, whereas they were mute in the movie versions, right? But was it a similar thing where more astronauts fell?
Yeah, every iteration had a new set of astronauts coming through. And
did they know about Taylor or something? Was he mentioned?
Some of them were, at least one of them was, they were on a mission looking for Taylor and his crew. I actually don't remember. These are fuzzy memories for me. We're going back to the 70s.
Yeah, I know.
But I also had, I did have some of the merch. Mego put out the action figures for Planet of the Apes, and they put out, I had the Gorilla General. I forget his name. Was it Urso or something like that? Ursus. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I may have had Cornelius, I think. What I found very interesting was the uniform tunic for the gorilla was the same uniform top that Mego used for the Klingon action figure. It wasn't very accurate, but it served its purpose. So now Mego got the license back for Planet of the Apes, and they're starting to put out all those Planet of the Apes figures again, if you're interested.
So you saw the original on TV. Were you warned about the? Did you know about the surprise ending?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't spoiled for me, if that's what you mean. No,
because I imagine that would have had a big impact when you're watching it and you realize, oh, he's been on Earth all along. It's.
I was. Gosh, I was pretty young, but I think I was old enough to go, oh, that's a cool twist, kind of a thing, like, yep. Oh, I get it. But I'll tell you, one thing that I thought was very effective, they did this in the 70s. I haven't seen it much since. And it's too bad because it is very effective. It closes very silently. After he does his cursing and whatnot, you don't go like to, music and whatnot. It's a silent close, and it's like, kind of spooky, I'm like, that's genius. It doesn't cost nothing, and it has a huge impact.
Creepy.
Yeah.
And it's, you're realizing this is our future if we keep messing around like we are now. And then we, of course, get Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which was the follow-up, which
I was a little older.
Yeah.
And I caught that one on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
And that was, again, regular television. And I remember the ending on that, thinking it felt to me like the horror films of those days, almost like a Hammer horror type of film.
Yeah, well, it had that very feel. I mean, think about Charlton Heston was even in that Omega Man movie, remember? And yeah, but it did have that horror feel to it, and that was creepier because you had the mutated humans worshiping the atom bomb, and I guess they had telekinetic abilities, and so it was weird that they introduced a third group. It was weird, though, because they said Heston would only come back to be in a sequel if they blew the whole planet up. That's what he said or something. So
And they probably, were like, oh, well, we're not going to do that. And then they thought about it and they were like, hey, wait a minute, that's not such a bad idea.
Well, they shoot. They shoot. No, well, we're spoiling this movie for those of you who haven't. But basically, the apes attack the mutated humans, and then they shoot Nova. And Taylor says, "Bloody bastard!" And he presses the button, and the bomb goes off and destroys the planet Earth. Apes and humans with it. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about Beneath. Like I don't know. That one, some of the stuff is a little on the nose, especially with the war protesting.
Yeah,
stuff, the war.
I get that.
I don't feel it's quite as smart as the first movie.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's not. But two little defenses I'll make. One, it makes perfect sense in the context, right? When you have seen the big twist ending at the end of the first movie, and of course you ultimately end up going back and watching it all the way through, knowing how it's going to end, you're like, okay, I kind of can imagine how this came about. Because he even says something like, damn it, you did it, you blew it all up, and we all just assumed, okay, nuclear war, especially since there was the Forbidden Zone. That immediately brings up the idea of maybe radiation and stuff like that, or at least in a culture that far down the line, maybe, it was taboo for the longest time to go to this place because everyone would get sick when they went there. So we still don't go there and, stuff like that. So when you then get to Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the idea of a civilization of humans surviving this long seems incredibly unlikely.
Yeah.
But
underground.
The idea of the it's not plausible, but possible maybe. I guess if I can suspend my disbelief and imagine a world of, anthropomorphic talking apes, I should be able to imagine, Morlocks under the ground, surviving that long. So.
That's probably where they got that from. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah. So anyway, so then we get Escape from the Planet of the Apes, which was Cornelius and Zira coming back to modern 1970s.
Which, in my personal opinion, is an example of them putting a big twist at the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
Because you're going into this, having seen the last one, going, how the heck are they going to do this? They blew up the world. Well, the way that, the spaceship came into the future, they can go back into the past. So you got Cornelius and... what was her name again? Mara?
Zira.
Right. Mm-hmm. Going back in time. Oh, and one other ape that ends up being the red shirt of the group.
Yeah, that's right. He gets shot. Oh man.
Well, they all end up getting dead. Spoiler. We're spoiling these, 40, 50-year-old movies. So
it's rather disturbing because it almost starts out like they're kind of celebrities and all the humans are accepting, and then people start thinking, what future did they come from, and are there humans in that future, and what's going on with the human race in the future? Then she confesses, I dissected a bunch, and then they're starting to realize, wait a minute, something's gone wrong in the future. Then people start fearing them, right? And then it turns into a big old tragedy.
Well, it turns into a big not self-fulfilling prophecy, but an ontological paradox, right? Because literally, they come back in time and cause the future that they came from. And trying to stop them, trying to kill them, trying to prevent that future literally leads to that future.
To that very future, yeah. And they do have a child, and the child gets switched out by a man that was trying to help them, who was a circus owner, played by Ricardo Montalban. Remember?
Yes, it was.
And he switches up babies.
Son played by Roddy McDowall, who had played the father character Cornelius.
And then we get Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, which might be one of my favorites of that original series. Have you seen that one?
Yes, I absolutely have. So Caesar, I believe is his name. Caesar grows up.
They say pick a name. And all apes have to have names, and they pick a name for this book, and he finds it on Caesar. Oh, okay, Caesar. He does because he's smart. He can speak, not when no one else is around, right? Yeah, because he's been raised, and he's an intelligent ape from the future. Yeah.
So Caesar basically sees his I want to say countrymen, but they're not.
Brethren. Well,
brethren, yeah. The others of his species being treated like cattle, like pets, like slaves. It's literally a slave uprising. And I mean, we start getting into basically the stories of the remake films that we have. Yeah.
They also have Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Did you watch that one?
I'm sure I did, but I might need a refresh.
I've been afraid to watch that one because, for starters, it starts out a story being told by either the lawgiver or somebody else. I thought,
the lawgiver,
John Huston plays them, and then it goes into the aftermath of Conquest, where it's like humans and apes that survived, I guess, the downfall of human civilization, trying to survive together, and then there's like a bad ape. I guess they kind of went on this storyline in the remakes as well. But I'm just trying to think, what was it though? Paul Williams plays an orangutan.
Yes, he does. And he did it very well, too.
This is what I've never seen all the way through, because one of the issues with those old Planet of the Apes movies, and I'm going to say this is back in the old days Hollywood, when they would make a sequel, they would spend half the money on it.
Yeah.
And then when they would make a sequel to that movie, they would spend half the money on that sequel.
Yeah.
And the budgets would keep going down with each subsequent sequel. And until what do you have left by the time you get to movie number 5? Now, I'll admit with Conquest, it was more interesting because at least I almost think the limited budget helped that movie, but it's because it's grittier.
Yeah,
like it's a Apes movie, but I don't know. But
this is the kind of thing that I saw when bigger special effects heavy TV shows started to become more popular, like in the 80s, Star Trek: The Next Generation, so forth. And this grew out of like Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, and stuff like that. This whole idea of reusing props, reusing costumes.
Right.
If you had molds for makeups, reusing them as much as possible and so forth, to cut costs as much as possible, you could end up having something that looks incredibly expensive, and it doesn't cost near as much as you thought. So if you're doing like Planet of the Apes, you could do a lot of stock appliances for there was only 3 different races of apes. There was the gorillas, the chimps, and the orangutans.
Yes.
So you could do like stock makeup for them. The costumes, you could just punch them out. They all had the basic same looks.
Yep.
And just
masks for background characters.
And I know that when they got around to doing the TV shows, that's exactly what they did. They used everything they could from the movies.
And how was the cartoon? This I'm unfamiliar with.
I got to be honest with you, I don't recall it that well.
Okay.
I did watch it. It's very hard to get a hold of today. I have been working on it.
Okay.
And I remember it being a very gritty style of art, kind of that... kind of like the stuff that was coming over from Japan back then, like Speed Racer.
It could have been animated over there for all we know.
Very, very possibly. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so not much known on the Planet of the Apes cartoon.
But if you think about the opening for what's that show, Archer? You've seen Archer, right?
Yeah.
The opening, the original opening for Archer, that art style. The opening for Planet of the Apes was very similar in that kind of feel. Except, instead of this jazzy jazz, it was more, like you'd expect primitive Planet of the Apes type music.
Okay, well, cool. I don't know. Maybe I'll hunt for it.
Yeah. It's probably worth it. I'm trying to get a hold of it myself. If you find one of your, Blu-ray,
I'll let you know.